All right, let's get into it, Rob. We both watched The Last Dance, as did just about every sports fan in America last night. What do you look? I think there are a lot of takeaways I had from it, but the one that the biggest one, let's put it that way, that everyone seems to be talking about is how Michael Jordan and his Bulls teammates, Horace Grant, Scottie Pippen, they all seem to still, what is this? It's more than 30 years later, or roughly 30 years later, they still have this deep-seated hatred for the Detroit Pistons. And a lot of it stems from all types of stuff. I mean, the way the bad boy Pistons just hammered them and played so physically with them. And then one of the most notable instances that kind of illustrates the whole tension between the two clubs is when Isaiah Thomas and Bill Laimbeer led a walk-off at the end of the game 4 when the Bulls finally overcame them in 1991 and beat them in the conference finals. And Isaiah and Laimbeer, most of the other Pistons, didn't acknowledge the Bulls, and the Bulls were very offended. Let me say this, and then I'm going to let you get to it. I was surprised at how much it hurt the Bulls. You know, everybody had been talking about it, and the Pistons disrespected them. Well, look, when the Pistons finally overcame the Celtics, it was a very similar situation. You know, the Celtics had kept beating up on the Pistons, and they couldn't get past them.
And if you remember the one where Bird stole the ball? Remember that? That was heartbreaking.
Oh, my gosh.
They were supposed to beat them there, and Isaiah throws in
3-2.
Throws in a bad pass.
Won. Yep.
And I'll never forget.
That was in 87.
That was unbelievable. Yep. That was my first year covering the league, 87.
Yeah, that was. And so, but when the Pistons beat them, the Celtics did the same thing to the Pistons. Now, they didn't walk by their bench, but they walked off the court into the locker room. Larry Bird, Robert Parrish, Dennis Johnson, Danny Ainge, before the game was over. Now, Kevin McHale, Isaiah kind of grabbed him at half court because they had a relationship since high school, and they talked a little bit. But other than that, they did that to the Pistons. So at least, the Pistons have used that as an excuse. Maybe it's an explanation, one or the other, to like, hey, that's how it was back then. But anyway, Jordan said last night it hurt badly. And so I was a little surprised that it bothered him that much, but obviously it did, and it still bothers him. Rob, he's upset still.
Absolutely. If you watched him and his reaction, he was like, I don't care what he said. I really don't want to see it at first. You remember?
Right.
It was like fresh. It was
he
like
didn't know if Isaiah was going to kiss his ring or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
He had no idea.
He didn't care.
And he really didn't care, and it tells you about how deep it is. And the thing about Detroit and Jordan, for people who don't know, Jordan was – a fan favorite, like any big star when you go around the different cities. And, Chris, we've talked about this. All except Detroit. People in Detroit hated Michael Jordan. They didn't want to see him do well. He was in the way.
New York didn't hate him like that.
Right. New York, I think we mentioned it. Yeah, they would love to see Jordan score 50, but the Knicks to win. Like it would. The Piston fans weren't like that. When Jordan came to town, there were no gazillion Jordan jerseys in the crowd. It just wasn't like that in Detroit because he was a threat to what the Pistons had. You know what I mean? Yep. And they were in the same division and everything. And so there was a real hate for Michael Jordan in Detroit, and it carried over. But you can see, and I think people who finally got to watch and see some of the video, I know you've watched the games on YouTube and whatnot, but when you string together, Chris, all that video of Jordan getting clobbered, right, by the Pistons, every time he tried to go to the lane or whatever, there were no flagrant fouls. Play on, get up, and play on.
Take
that was
your 2 shots and get up.
Yeah, and that was it. They were not allowing him to soar or take off or whatever. They were like, nope. And it was physical. And Jordan, I think you could see in this interview, in this documentary, that it still stings, and he's still never over the whole the way that they were, the classless, or they were, you know what I mean?
And here's the interesting thing, Rob, and you know this from they left this out of the documentary. And they left it out because, look, we were sold on there's this independent documentary. There's this great footage that, you know, they have of Jordan and the Bulls from the last season together. And, you know, it's going to be an independent tell-all about Michael Jordan. Now, don't get me wrong. I love it. What I'm seeing is great. I'm all into it. However, Michael Jordan has control of this. Understand that. And y'all know I love Jordan. I think, like Rob, he's the GOAT. But he has control. You're not going to see anything in this documentary that he doesn't allow you to see. Period. Because without him, they wouldn't have even been able to release the stuff. And like every human being, he's not going to put stuff in there that makes him look terrible. So the one part that was left out last night, and, you know, they painted it in a context where the Pistons, you know, just walked by the Bulls bench, and it really made them look unsportsmanlike and all that. What they didn't tell you, thankfully, they at least mentioned the Celtics, right? That they had done it to the Pistons. Okay. But what they failed to mention, Rob, is that the day before, Michael Jordan had said either at practice or shoot around, well, I guess practice if it wasn't a game day, that the Pistons were undeserving champions,
Yep.
and bad for basketball. So Isaiah Thomas and the Pistons are looking at it like he's trying, not only are they going to beat us, but they're trying to wipe away what we did as far as our two-time champions.
That it doesn't matter.
Like
we don't matter.
Legit.
Right.
And so I'm not excusing what was done because, look, Joe Dumars, very classy. John Solly, they both shook the Bulls' hands.
Right. They didn't go along with the rest of the team.
Lambeer and Isaiah. But you can understand how dudes could be upset, right? And what they know what Jordan said, so they were upset. So that's just the whole picture. I just think it's important that we see that as well.
No doubt. And you're right. He's going to have the literary license because it's his production. Yep. And that's just the way it is. That's what me and you talk all the time about. Which one do you want? Do you want to go and read about your Lakers, if you're a Lakers fan, Chris, on the team website, or do you want to go to the LA Times and get the real story? Which one do you want?
Right.
Because the team website is not going to paint a bad picture about anything the Lakers are doing. That's just because those writers and reporters are paid by the team. It's as simple as that. The LA Times, they're going to tell it to you like it is because they're not beholden to the Lakers, LeBron, AD, anybody. They're just going to be there for the fans. So
that's right.
That's what you're getting here, and you got to understand it.
That's right. And finally, before we get to you callers, look, the Bulls, I think their anger, Rob, with the Pistons stems from they think the Pistons were dirty. They don't think it was just hard fouls, that this is just how the NBA was back then. And, you know, it happens to everybody. Now, I'm not saying they're right. I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying that is where the anger stems from. They think the bad boys went above and beyond. They think they went above the average hard foul, that they were literally trying to take you out of the game, not maim you permanently or anything like that. But they want to hurt you. You know, when you went to the lane, they want to hurt you. Now, the Pistons will say, hey, we played that way with everybody. And they did. Larry Bird, you know, Bill Lambier, there's footage of Lambier hammering him. I mean, there's footage of them hammering everybody. You know, and they'll say, we got hammered too. There is footage of Bill Cartwright of the Bulls, Rob, elbowing Isaiah Thomas to the point where it's a cut and blood for Isaiah Thomas on his face.
Yep.
You know, so they were both physical, but that's where the Bulls, rightly or wrongly, anger stems from. They think they were dirty. All right, 877-99 on Fox, 877-996-6369. Are you surprised that the Jordan Bulls still hate the bad boy Pistons 30 years later. And where are you on, are you on a side? Are you with the Pistons? Hey, they were right to walk out like that? Or are you with the Bulls? The Pistons were wrong and the Bulls should still be upset. I get it. Do you miss the rivalries like this in sports today? Let's get right to the calls, Rob. I know people want to weigh in on The Last Dance. Pistons or Bulls? Who you got?
All right, Craig in Maine. You're on the Odd Couple, Fox Sports Radio. What you got, Craig?
Hey, guys. Thanks for the call. Thank you very much. Hey, listen, I'm with the Pistons. I grew up. I'm 52 years old, and, the 80s basketball has never been nothing like it. And, the way they called the games back then. And I do believe Jordan is the GOAT, but Jordan never won until all those guys, all the greats were gone. Bird, Magic, those Piston teams. I mean, he really never got it done until I thought the league was leaking down a little bit.
I got to disagree with you. Go back and do your research and find out how old the Pistons were. They were still in their late 20s. They were not over the hill, that Pistons team, when they finally beat them. They weren't.
I think they were getting older.
Yeah, but they make it like they were 35.
Not really the same. No, they weren't that old.
Go look at. I'm just saying. I've looked at the ages.
There's a legit point there, though.
I've looked at the ages. They're not 35. That's what people are trying to make it out.
But players didn't play as long back then either.
No, I get that.
And Isaiah had gotten some injuries. He was actually injured in that series. But
it ain't like the picture that they paint. I've heard people act like they were all in their 30s and it was all like they all retired the next year.
Dumars was definitely young.
Dumars played until he played 14 years in the NBA, right? I'm saying
he was young. Isaiah was coming to the end because of the injuries. Aguirre, Rodman was obviously young.
Yeah, he played a lot longer. That's all I'm saying. They weren't finished.
Yeah.
All right. Just put my thing down. Sorry about that.
He's got to put his reading glasses on.
Yeah, I know. I need LASIK surgery is what I need next. All right, let's go to Isaiah in Baltimore. You're on the Odd Couple Fox Sports Radio. What's up, Isaiah?
Hey, you guys. First, I want to say, Rob, I'm glad that you're back. I'm really sorry for your loss. I'm praying for you, family. But I want to say that it makes sense to me why Jordan still has animosity towards the Pistons, because he's a perfectionist. He's the greatest competitor in sports history, and they beat him 3 times. And then when he finally got over the mountain, because everybody said when he lost to them, what was that, for the 3rd time, he changed. He gained weight, and he became a better all-around basketball player. And when he finally beat them, they didn't even have the decency to acknowledge him. Now, as you were saying, Chris, he to me, Michael Jordan, when he basically said they didn't deserve to be champions and stuff, my family's from Detroit. You feel me? 7 Mile. I found that disrespectful.
7 Mile and what?
7 Mile and Evergreen.
Wow. My barbershop, Sporty Cuts, is on 7 Mile between Outer Drive and Myers on the west side.
Yeah. I love them, and they represent Detroit. That bad boy Pistons team represented Detroit, and they started Detroit versus everybody. It was because of them. So he disrespected them, and then they disrespected him. But I want to see Jordan and Isaiah. I want to see them, just get over it. Maybe do it.
That ain't never happening.
Yeah,
it would be nice. I'm with you. I'd love to see it. I don't know
think
if
that
Mike wants to go there. I know Isaiah would love to go there.
If you heard Michael the way he said that, I mean, seriously.
But here's the thing, because I talked to Isaiah recently in the last few days, and he said it's whenever I see Michael, and they'll cross paths here and there, it's all good.
We can't squeeze one more in?
He was caught off guard by what happened last night. And, he's the one. I mean, Jordan's the GOAT. So, of course, Isaiah's going to be the one to suffer.
Isaiah says that it's LeBron, and so does Lambeer.
Well,
so
yeah,
I'm just saying. Well, every time I hear a former bad boy say that it's LeBron, just
who does Dumars say? Do you know?
I've never asked him. I'm not going to speak for him either. So
yeah. All right, it is the Odd Couple, Chris and Rob. We got Scott Burrell coming up next, former teammate of Michael Jordan, so you want to check this out. Scott, welcome to the Odd Couple.
What's up, Scott?
What's up, Chris? What's up, Rob? How you guys doing?
We are great. Now, we got a lot of connections to you. You know
That's
this.
Right.
I covered Scott when you played, for the New Jersey Nets.
Yep, in New Jersey. Yes, you did.
Yes,
you did.
Fresh off your year with the Bulls. Yeah.
Yep, that is exactly right. Yep.
Scott is the head coach at my alma mater, Southern Connecticut State University in beautiful New Haven, Connecticut.
Hey, Rob, and I heard that, and you are donating money after this show. That's what I heard.
You know what's funny?
Basketball.
You know what's funny is I am working to before all this happened with the pandemic, reached out to start a new scholarship, a Rob Parker scholarship for the sports journalism program at Southern. So I'm actually going to be doing something once we get back on track here. So yes,
that's good. That's good.
Very proud of my school.
I didn't know they acknowledged that Rob went there.
Yes,
so that's good to see.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, Chris, I messed up. It took him so long to acknowledge that. That's real
right.
Nice.
That's it. All right. Well, it's great.
Well, Scott, look, we got to start here. Any negative ramifications for you today or last night after what we saw at the end of The Last Dance? I mean, man, mom and dad call you up or anything like that?
No. I warned my parents a long time ago about this. I knew this day was going to come out one day, but no, they knew that part was coming. Plus that was 22 years ago.
Right.
Yeah,
we heard, and I'm sure you probably saw the reports before The Last Dance came out. Michael Jordan had said, people might think he's a horrible guy after they see this because he was, he said I was hard on Scott Burrell. He was new to the team, and I was hard on him. All that. I haven't really seen that so far. I mean, it looks like it's just kind of him almost taking you under his wing, but joking with you a lot. I mean, was he that hard on you? What was it like?
I think he's well. You know what? I played for some tough coaches. I played different sports. I mean, my dad was hard on me. I think he was just a coach on the court. I don't think he was any harder than anybody else who pushed me to be great or pushed me to be good or who challenged me to be the best I can be. I love the way he treated me. I love the way every day he would never let me be average. He wanted me to be great because I knew I needed to be great to help them win their third championship. Because number one, they were going to do it without me, but I'd rather be a part of it and help do something to hold my end of the bargain.
How about as you look back on, playing with Michael and having a front row seat? I was covering the NBA during that time.
So hold on. You say a front row seat. You're saying I sat on the bench the whole game.
No, I didn't mean that.
No, I'm just joking. I'm teasing.
We had a good seat there, but
yeah.
But like I remember the writers when I was covering the NBA during that time. We knew we were watching something special. This is even before he won his first championship, and what was happening. What was it like when you watched him or when you were practicing or whatever? Did you know, like, man, this dude is like arguably or could be the greatest basketball player we've ever seen? Was it like that, or did you have to appreciate everything after it was over?
No, you already knew that when you played against him. He was the greatest basketball player that you'd ever seen because you had to guard him in games. But when I got there, I appreciate what I saw in practice more than I did in games. Because he made practice harder than games were. The way he came focused, he came mentally prepared. The effort he gave, lifting weights before every practice. There wasn't a day he took off. So the preparation he put himself through and he put us through made games a little bit easier than any other team I played on.
Scott, like you said, you were on several different teams. Mm-hmm. Was he the hardest worker you had ever seen? Or, was it that unusual what he did?
The hardest worker, never took a day off. Mentally, I would say more mentally tougher than anybody I played with. And mentally prepared. And if you weren't prepared, he would let you know, I need you to be better today. Or he wouldn't say it like that. It'll be a little more, in a more toneful way, he would say. But he needed you to be great that day so he can practice harder. So it prepared him and yourself when the situation came upon you were put into in a game to be successful.
Speaking of taking days off, the Dennis Rodman, I got to go to Vegas, I got to get out of here, and Jordan and Phil Jackson going back and forth. And then from Michael, I have to go to Vegas to go get him. That was an intriguing story. What was that? Tell us about that.
I'm surprised Carmen Electra had to hide behind a couch, she said. That's the most
interesting
part about the story. Hey, look, MJ put fear in everybody, not just players, everybody. That's what I got out of it.
Yeah, right. What is she hiding for, right?
Exactly. Yeah. No, I think, one thing Phil was great at was coaching personalities. And you guys know Dennis gave it up, put it on the line every night. He went to battle for his team on the court, and he did it in practice as well. But Dennis was prepared to play every game. He watched film. He had a great IQ, was a great passer, great defender, great rebounder. He prepared himself, but every now and then he just needed a day to ease his mind. And Phil let him do it, and it worked for the team. It worked for him, and obviously he didn't lose fame, so it worked for many reasons.
Hey, Scott, Chris, let me just follow up real quick. The other thing, Scott, and you were talking about Phil Jackson. Obviously, Phil Jackson was a hippie, kind of the Zen master, kind of had his own. He wasn't, Joe NBA guy either when he played and coming up. And do you think that made it easier? Because even, what was it mentioned that he had dropped acid or when he was, you know what I mean? So
you know what he said.
You know what I mean?
He dropped acid is
he
what
dropped
he said.
acid, right? But I'm just saying, does that make it so that he could understand, like Rodman, being a different cat and needing a break? Do you know what I mean? To relate, where most coaches would have never gone for that.
Yeah, I agree. But I think that's why Phil was successful everywhere he went. Number one, he got great talent around him. But at the same time, you got to be able to coach great talent and get everyone on the same page. If you don't have great chemistry or guys not have the same goal, it's not going to work. And I think Phil made sure one thing he did. I mean, everything he did for us was try to bond us as a team, make sure we're on the same page. He, the adversity that he was going through with the front office, he didn't let that distract us. Michael didn't let that distract us. I mean, Scotty had his issues with Jerry Krause, but he got Scotty focused to play basketball. And I think he understands players, their mindset, because he did play. And he, I don't know how aggressive he is as a person, but he never yelled. So he was able to talk to players and relate to them. And that's what I thought he was great at.
Scott, how did Jordan handle or interact with Rodman? Because, I'd heard stories before this documentary came out. Even Rodman would say, they never talked. He's like, Michael Jordan never talked to me, never talked. And even when Jordan recounts, even the trip to Vegas, and if you listen closely to Jordan telling it, he was saying Phil and Dennis are talking, and he's like, and I'm telling Phil, if you let him go, he'll never, Rodman's right there. He's not saying it to Rodman.
Right.
He's saying to Phil.
Like he's not in the room.
Right. So what was their interaction like?
Like you said, Dennis never talked. So when he did talk, it was about basketball and it was about, trying to make the team better and trying to figure out how we're going to make this work. So it was never really an argument. No one ever had an argument. They would just discuss basketball stuff. And to be honest, I don't know if Dennis said more than 5 words to anybody because he just came to practice, did his job, and hung out. But I never saw a situation where they had an argument or they had any conversation that wasn't involving how we're going to get better, how we're going to fix something.
Let me finish.
Chris,
go ahead.
even in that film yesterday, when Dennis and Michael were talking during the game, I thought it was an awesome exchange. Of how to make something work.
Right. Oh yeah.
I don't know if I was on the team that year, but I thought it was awesome to hear those two talk about how we're going to get something fixed to win this game.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's wrap up with this, Scott. One of the things that upset me in the first weekend they ran the first two episodes was how a dynasty was broken up by the front office.
Oh, yeah.
That's just not the way it should end. But let me ask you this. Obviously, there was issues with Scotty. He had a couple injuries. Dennis is getting a little older. Do you think they could, let's say they brought the team back as it was or maybe made a few more additions or tweaks. Mm-hmm. What do you think could they have won a 4th straight championship? That was the year, of course, Duncan and Robinson led the Spurs to the title.
I definitely think they got a chance to win 4 because you got to think about 4 was a lockout year. So it was only half a season.
Right. Good point.
So if you think they're getting older, they would have more time to rest. It was a shorter season, but sometimes we played 3 games in a row during that season, 3 games and 3 nights. But I think they would have plugged in the holes with the right players. I think Jerry did a great job finding guys, finding talent, and filling in holes when they needed it. But you got to let that dynasty run its own course. You would never see Steinbrenner back in the day break up the Yankees dynasty.
No way. No way.
Yeah, and it's sad to see because it could have been 4, it could have been 5, it could have been 6 in a row. You don't know until MJ retired. But it was sad to see a dynasty being broken up through management rather than through winning losses.
Right.
Hey,
That's
Scott, we
Burrell.
appreciate you, man.
Yes, man.
No,
Great
no problem.
stuff.
And
we appreciate
Scott,
it.
next basketball season, I am going to return to see the Fighting Owls play. I'm going to come for a game and check
Rob,
it all out.
Bring that checkbook.
Yeah. As long as you have me like some Southern Connecticut hoodie or something, I got to get something in return, you know?
Hey, trust me. Hey, if I get something in the mail, you'll get a hoodie in the mail, too, as well.
All
I have
right.
no problem with that.
I got you.
All right, Scott. Great stuff.
All
and
righty.
good luck, man, with the team.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it.
All right,
Thanks,
brother.
Rob.
See you.
Yep.